I can't make it. Hi, everyone. Oh, Matt, thank you. I mean, it is a tech call. We might as well get the tech right. Hey, Elliot's mom. I hope Elliot is asleep right now, getting ready for class tomorrow. That's helpful too. Thanks, Chris. It's not your first merry-go-round, huh?
No, we've had a couple fun people Zooms.
Oh, is this gonna keep popping up now? Hold on, oh, have we done some Zooms before?
Had a couple.
Oh, my goodness. From this spot too. With chairs flying around.
Good old days.
Wow. Who else is here? Hi, Lauren. I just want to know, Jill, are we going Cheetos tonight? Wow.
I found a contraption you can put on your outside of your fingers, still type and grab
Any
Cheetos like chopsticks. Yeah.
In the middle, right? Like,
Yeah. You
Wait,
see
is that a thing?
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you put it in the middle of your fingers.
So you never touched the cheese doodle?
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, we ate Smart Food.
Uh-huh.
It actually came out when I was a kid. And you would never touch the popcorn.
You ever see him eat Cheetos with a coffee mug?
Yeah, I put the Cheetos in the coffee mug and then I eat from the mug so I don't get my, like, I want orange fingers.
I've done that with cereal.
That's his classy approach.
Do you,
Extra classy.
do you put cereal in a cup with the milk? Like, do you eat cereal out of?
Occasionally, like if I'm to go, like if I'm trying, like catching a train.
Now,
I'll do
so
that.
you only do it for logistics, not for the fact that less surface area of your cereal touches the milk?
Yeah, just
So it
for,
gets soggy slower.
Mm.
It's good. I mean, it's a tech call. We might as well get
Good call.
scientific here. Right, that's not mine. I learned that from somebody.
That's good.
Instead of you put it in a glass and eat, I said, there's not enough room in the glass to get the, anyway. Wow, Brianna on it mobile?
Got Wi-Fi on the subway.
There should be extra points for whoever comes off first. We'll get started. Should we give everybody one more minute?
Yeah.
And if they're late and they don't come with their Empire shirt?
I know Luke's got his Empire shirt on.
It's way more fun when we do it as a Zoom instead of as a webinar.
You see more people.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You see
more fun.
people.
Yeah, that's,
Now you see Henry Miller's cool birthday hat.
I don't think people know yet.
No, that's it.
that's out.
Is it?
Yeah, it's been released.
Had a 5-year-old walk up to me the other day, says, your hat's dirty. I said, no, it's actually brand new. You just still don't know about this kid.
Wait, did you think the yellow was
Yeah,
dirty?
he was like, your hat's really dirty. I was like, no, it's brand new.
No,
Talk to Fireman Henry.
it's the limited edition Henry Miller 6 hat.
Ryan pointed it out.
Is he on yet? He better be asleep.
Oh, no, he's doing towel swings.
Oh, I don't see the blast guys on. Should we just get started with it? Wait a minute. Okay, if Bogdan is on, hi Bogdan, hi Romy. If you're on, that makes the total number of hours of the Kosmachuk family at Empire today about 9. All right, 30 seconds. We're halfway there. Hey, there's Stephen from Blast. You live, Steve?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Of course. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for joining at a time when you should also be doing adult things, not hanging out with us.
Yeah, that's all good. I've
Appreciate
actually
it.
had to work late tonight, so would have
I know
been here
this is typical time for you and Joe to be working on Blast stuff.
Yeah, no, this is the time of year for me. Like I'm locked to my desk. And once the games start, I'm good to go.
Yep. Totally. So why don't let's see where we're at. We 30? Yeah, we're jumping in. Excuse me. So welcome everyone. For those of you who joined early, we appreciate it. We're going to keep this relatively short. We want to be really, really respectful of everyone's time, especially with a late webinar here. We'll also be following up throughout the winter with some more in-depth topics and webinars from the rest of the team here. and we'll touch on everything that we touched on tonight, but also some more in-depth topics around training and player development and how the season will roll out, and certainly some other interesting topics that we have in store, some lesser known things that a lot of people have had questions about. So we keep hearing the same things. We want to share that with everybody. So again, happy holidays, welcome. We'll jump right in. We're being joined by Stephen from Blast Motion. Some of you are already familiar with him. He's helped us out in the past and continues to be absolutely an extension of our own team. And we're really excited about that, because having the resources of Blast Motion to help all of our travel teams and our training players, huge help, and has helped to guide not just what we teach, but how we teach it, and has given us a set of resources that we wouldn't otherwise have and be able to deliver for the kids in our program. So Stephen, thanks for the ongoing support and help. And I can't thank you enough for the late night text from the Biomech team about how one of our players is similar to Shohei Ohtani. So let's not change that. That's if you all want to know what we do when your kids aren't here, that's what we're doing. We're texting about biomechanics. So yeah, that's actually true. Anyway, let's jump right in. Do a little screen share here. Sorry. Okay. Play. Slideshow. Okay, so you're familiar with these topics. We've touched on this before, so let's jump right in. We're gonna talk a little bit about our training approach and player development. For those of you who don't know, I'll introduce Joe Stone. Exciting the work he's doing here, and he's taking a leadership role on the player development side of things, in addition to coaching a couple of our teams, and we'll get into that. Chris, of course, is here. He's playing a huge role in managing the entire travel program. Any thoughts to share?
I guess the biggest thing for me is as much joy and excitement and all the coaches get out of being with your kids on the field, which I think you see it, hear it, and feel it. These next 4, almost 5 months is our favorite time. Being on the field is awesome, but being able to develop your kids multiple times a week and just kind of watching the strides that we can continue to make, and obviously being partnered with Blast, it just makes our lives easier. It makes it us to be able to come back to you with numbers, and instead of just saying your kid is improving on it overall, now we can actually start to break things down, whether it be bat speed and the way he's swinging his bat. So I'm excited to get back in here and continue to train, but then also do it the right way and the smarter way.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it, because look, as concerned we are with the numbers, I think someone said to me recently, progress is the ultimate motivator, and it's incredible to see how using Blast over the last couple of years has done 2 things for us. One, it's allowed us to become smarter, right? We're thinking about things in a much more succinct way. We've focused on hitting so much more, but it's also allowed us to quantify things so we know when a player is moving in the right direction. The other thing that it's been a tremendous part of, and Steve, I'm going to just steal your thunder here, is our players have gotten demonstrably better, not only in the arena, but out on the field. And what we've seen and what we've taken advantage of and what we've learned and helped us to teach is how to go up and look to become the best swinger and the best hitter they can be. And they're competing with each other in the most friendly of ways. We had somebody, excuse me, last season who said, I hope one of my teammates hits a baseball 82 miles an hour tonight, and he had just hit 181 for his new personal record. And everybody turned around and laughed. They said, why? I said, because then the next day I'll have to hit 83. So we're seeing how friendly competition has been such a tremendous part of driving development internally here, in addition to things like Blast Motion and some of the other tech we've employed and invested in, and some of the other research we've done has been just such a huge help in making us more effective and more efficient. So let's just talk briefly about our goals as an organization, our philosophy, our priorities, and our approach to training. From there, we'll get into kind of how we measure success very briefly. We'll also talk about some of the resource and the recipe for success that we apply to all of this. And then we are probably going to answer some of the questions that some of you already have around hitting and pitching instruction, because obviously Blast is not a part of our pitching instruction. And some of you are curious about what we do on the pitching side. We'll talk a little about that. We'll introduce Joe and share some of his contact information so you all realize that you have one point of contact. You won't have to go to, say, Blast Motion support or any of our other, excuse me, technology support. Joe will be your single point of contact for anything that you need around the technology and analytics for your child. And then we'll kick it over to Stephen for a couple of words on Blast Motion and what you need to do from here. So with that, look, we've talked about this in the past. We have 3 primary goals in the travel organization. One, and you can read it here. Look, we want to develop skills through baseball that'll serve us on and off the field. And we constantly talk about having skills that scale, right? We don't want to hear the words, just throw strikes and just make contact, because the reality is, while those might be interesting and minimize embarrassment for a moment or two, they don't scale, they don't grow with your child. So if they can throw strikes slowly at 8 years old, and they can just make contact and the ball rolls through the infield for what's called a hit, and we're measuring their batting average at 8U instead of how hard they swing the bat, they're not going to be playing baseball successfully for very long, right? So the idea is to develop skills that will grow with them, skills that will also drive their growth, rather than what was your batting average? Oh, you're in a slump. You went 1 for your last 6. That's not a slump. It's a small sample size. And if we see a great swing over 6 at bats, we're really happy. Okay. If we see over 100 at bats that somebody hasn't gotten any hits and we're telling you they have a good swing, you may want to call Joe. From there, we want to get better in the games, right? The purpose of being in here training, as Chris alluded to, is not just to get better in training, it's to get better in the games. And baseball presents a very specific set of challenges, and we won't go too far down this road, but baseball is a skill sport, right? It's not a participation sport. We could all go to the beach and go swimming in the ocean. We don't have to be very good at swimming to enjoy our day at the beach. You go play a competitive baseball game and you're not very good at it, it's scary and it's not as much fun, right? If you're on, we were just talking about in a pitching class today, if you're on a pitcher's mound and mom and dad are yelling, even though we ask you not to, you're there yelling, be confident. You don't gain confidence by having mom or dad yell, be confident at that moment. It doesn't happen. Confidence comes from preparation. And the preparation that goes on in here, we're looking to eliminate the fear of failure. Eliminate fear of the baseball. And then B, take what we learn in here in terms of skill and intention and go and execute that on the field, right? Because being a good batting cage hitter, but having performance anxiety and worrying about the wrong things in the game, like I just need to make contact, I hope I don't strike out, that's not going to translate from this great swing you've developed into your performance on the field. The third piece, and this should be at the crux of everything we do, is have fun, right? You don't need to hear from me that you're better at things that you have fun at. It becomes immersive, right? The kids that we see do the best, they're not here slaving away like, hard work. Hard work doesn't have to be miserable. We have players that come in here and, I laughed about Zach Kosmachuk, and not to call out on one player. Every time I turn around, this kid is in here and his development is not a result of the 3 people you're looking at or the other 12 coaches who are on this call. His development is his responsibility. Everyone has the same opportunity here that he has. He outworks everyone we know, and he has his ups and downs. He has his absolutely miserable moments. And my favorite part of 2022 was his worst moment. Not because I wanted to see him fail, but because the way he rebounded from that failure was an absolute example in leadership and future performance and growth. And he's not the only one, but he's fresh in my mind because his parents are on this call and he is here for every hour for the last 3 days. So this is what you make of it, and you'll have more fun the better you are. So taking advantage of all the tools and all the opportunities and all the coaches that are here and all the resources that we're putting into this will help to drive performance. It's interesting. This goes back to what we talk about all the time. And I think this gets lost on most people because it's impossible not to pay attention to outcomes in baseball, right? Somebody hits a ball, the center fielder catches it, they failed in most people's mind. And then they get up in their next at bat and they check swing, it breaks the bat and drops in over the first baseman's head, and they hustle and they're on second base. And that's considered a success because on Game Changer or in the scorebook, that's 1 for 1 with a double, where the first one is 0 for 1 with an out, except the first guy is somebody that I want to bet on long-term for success over time. And the second one got lucky. We don't want our players to rely on luck for success. I don't mind, and we don't mind if they rely or if bad luck brings failure. But we want skill to bring success. So we want to measure skill development and fun, not outcomes that may have been the result of luck. So the box score in a short sample size, even in a short season, I was saying here, doesn't tell the whole story, and it may actually tell the wrong story. And this goes back to something that we're going to talk about in depth later this winter. What makes baseball difficult? Everybody talks about it. They think that what makes baseball difficult is that it's a sport of failure. Everybody says it. And they say if you succeed 3 out of 10 times, you're an all-star, and if you succeed 35 out of 100 times, you're a Hall of Famer. That's not what makes baseball difficult. What makes baseball difficult is that you cannot control the outcomes. You throw the best pitch of your life, and somebody hits a home run off of it. Then you throw a poorly thrown pitch, and they foul it off for swing and miss. You couldn't control those outcomes. You get up, like I said earlier, you hit the best ball of your life, center fielder makes a diving catch, the next one you check swing and it drops in for a double. That's what makes baseball difficult, that you have to trust the process and that you will succeed on average over time, rather than look at the box score and you went 0 for 3 and you went home a failure. All right, so that leads us to think about what skills we should train and what we should be measuring. And the measurement is not always the outcome, especially not in a smaller sample size. It's how do we drive the skills that scale that will develop long-term athletes and long-term success. And that's what we're looking for. In terms of the organization, excuse me, not much has changed organizationally, except for our focus shifting just a bit. We'll talk more about that. Right now, we're at 15 full-time coaches and instructors. This is all we do. And all of our instructors, and I think we're unique in many ways across the country. And I can say that because I sit on 2 of the committees for the ABCA, American Baseball Coaches Association, and I'm familiar with organizations large and small, and very few approach this the way we do with a full organizational approach, where every coach, every instructor is involved with nearly every player. And it's not that we're all completely interchangeable. We do have our specializations. Coaches are head coaches of teams and assistant coaches of teams, but every coach knows the plan, knows the players, and knows what we're working on, and can bring that uniformly, right? We all train all the time, and we all train uniformly and go out and disseminate and share that information uniformly. One of the things you'll see in 2023 is even more of the technology and a different focus on the technology. One of the things we learned was the use of things like track was not as successful as we thought it would be. Extremely fantastic, robust platform, except I think we underestimated the likelihood that a 10-year-old would be able to bother mom at any hour to hand over her phone or laptop or iPad so they could look at their training plan for the day. So we're going to simplify training plans so that players can access it, see it, and use it more easily and efficiently and effectively, right? If they're not doing the work and they can't access the work, what good is the coolest, fanciest, most robust technology platform, right? The things that haven't changed are our obsession with individual and team development, right? So how we apply that obsession and all of the technology that goes into it is what's going to get upgraded and become even more interesting. Culturally, again, this hasn't changed. Very clear understanding in this organization from top to bottom of the concept of process over outcome and the correlation between hard work and success. It's not an accident. And also the fun and enjoyment and passion that we all bring, leading to the immersion that the players who are having the most fun, the coaches who are having the most fun share. Little shift in topic here. Some of you have asked, especially players who are new or 1 or 2 of our teams who had a tough time pitching this past season. For those of you who don't know and haven't been around a very long time, we were very, very steeped and known for our pitching instruction for many, many years. My own background and focus in our organization was primarily for many years on pitching and healthy pitching. And, I'm now on NYU Radio, and I'm a consultant to NYU's Langone Performance Center, and we work with HSS, both HSS and NYU, on players who already get hurt from outside of our organization, who then come to us for rehab in terms of mechanical instruction and strength and mobility work. I was the area director for the National Pitching Association for 7 years, And our focus has always been on healthy pitching and performance as a pitcher. And for years, we were able to brag to people that we had virtually no pitching injuries, and it was extraordinary, right? There was the lowest incident rate according to the local hospitals of any organization. Over the last couple of years, we noticed that hitting lagged, and we went out and worked with the folks at Blast and some other techs and became a very, very hitting centric organization. And you know what? It paid off. From top to bottom, virtually every team in the system is out hitting where they were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and certainly 4 and 5 years ago. Right? We were known for pitching and really smart players on the field. And we're going to renew the focus on pitching again with not only classes outside of the team training, but the entire training program and schedule has changed for every team, starting later in December. And of course, in January through March, where a tremendous chunk of training is going to be spent on pitching. Historically, for those of you who know us, we went up to 18U years ago. And I mean, one of our coaches is actually an alum of the place that threw 97 miles an hour. And he learned that here. And he's not an outlier. I mean, for all intents and purposes, we have a bunch of guys who are 90+ guys who went on to play a high level of baseball, and we're going to bring that back, right? And I think the focus suffered because we spent so much time on hitting, and look, it paid dividends, but now we'll do both. And Chris pointed out that we're excited to have players in here a couple of times a week instead of just once. That gives us an opportunity to teach more and have players develop more. So we're really, really excited about that. And I'm, of course, selfishly excited because it really is something that I love to teach and be involved in. Couple of thoughts before we move on. Very excited for those of you who already know him. Joe Stone, since he got here, he's been a tremendous help and influence on the tech and analytics and the thinking behind it. And he's now moved into the role of, for the player development team, of managing analytics and technology, everything from the tech we use here to the rollout and execution of every sensor being on every bat. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So just, Joe, a couple of words, introduce yourself. And for those of you who don't know him, and let's go from there.
Hey guys, for those who don't know me, I'm Coach Joe. I'm super excited to be heading the analytics and player development and technology. If you guys have any questions at all, I'll be your point of contact for everything. So as Jordan said earlier, no need to go to Blast support or any other support. I'm here and I want to work with you guys to make this as easy as possible for you to understand, and we could just continue to get kids better.
So it's interesting, something that Joe just said is so true for us, right? We noticed, and we talked about this in a webinar years ago, we noticed that there was this bell curve of interaction and usage with technologies like Blast. And Stephen and I talked about that, Steve, the day that you got to Blast Motion, we shared this thought with you. And we're so excited with the direction that you're taking things for Blast, of course. We noticed that there was a bell curve of behavior. We handed out at the time, Steve, I think this was before you. I think we handed out 60 sensors, and we literally saw a bell curve. We saw 6 or 7 players who used this thing every night. They were hitting socks in their bedroom. And then we had 6 or 7 players who said, "What's Blast? I paid for it and I have no idea what it is." And then we had about 40 some odd players in the middle saying, "Yeah, we used it once or twice and we're not exactly sure what to do with it. And how do you charge this thing?" And we realized right then and there that we had 2 choices. One was explain to people that, see, the top 10% of people that use this thing, among other training and technology, got better. And it was demonstrable. We had all these reports of these 6 players who just killed it. And then these 6, they weren't that engaged, weren't that involved, and didn't get better. And then the lump got better because, hey, listen, the herd was moving in the right direction. And we decided against that. We thought, even though that might be a good lesson to learn, that, hey, the harder you work, the luckier you get, or the more success you'll have. Instead, we said, this needs to be a very different model for us. It needs to be, we are going to do everything we can to make sure that players are doing everything we think they need to do and they think they need to do to get better. And having both Stephen at Blast helping out and Joe internally helping out every day to be an interface for you, for your children, because he may reach out to you and say, "I think that Sammy is not using his sensor and I don't think he's doing his homework, it's not because he's playing big brother and checking on you. It's what can we do to help your child to do the work, to get better, to be more involved, and what needs does he have? And that's it. And that's going to be Joe's biggest focus, not only all winter long, but throughout the season. And our entire staff is geared up for those conversations and the extra help that your players may need to do anything from charge your blast sensor, set up your account, to help with the drills at home, because they're on video. We moved them all to our YouTube channel, but we'll get into that later. For those of you who haven't met him already, I know I speak very highly of him. And look, it's an interesting relationship, right? And I'll leave it to him. We're not the biggest organization in the country. We only have 128 players in our travel organization using Blast Motion. So by the numbers and the business of this stuff, there are organizations that are a whole lot bigger, sitting in Georgia and California and Arizona right now, right? But somehow the overlap in our cultures and our focus and our approach has made for a very special relationship. And Stephen has spearheaded that for Blast Motion. So with that, Stephen, why don't you jump in and introduce yourself to the team and all the families and let us know.
Yeah, I appreciate the introduction. I wish I could have you just introduce me for all my other webinars. But the one thing you left out for our New York crowd is this bat, or this bat back here is the 04 Red Sox bat. So
Hold on, I'm disconnecting Stephen now. You'll have a great night.
yeah, I have some Red Sox stuff in here from when I was a kid living up there. But on a serious note, like from a Blast standpoint, obviously I have to be professional about it. And, all the Yankees and Mets are the two of our best organizations when it comes to the way they utilize Blast. And, just to kind of touch on the point of, the size of the organization and things like that, going from MLB all the way down to youth, we have a lot of big teams and a lot of small teams that use us. And what I found in the last few years working for Blast is my favorite ones to work with are the ones that are committed to development. A lot of teams, especially in the landscape of youth and travel baseball right now, are just committed to how many players can I put on a field for, how many games we can win when we're 12 years old. And, while winning should always be a priority to some degree, like the teams that care about development and what the future holds for these players are the ones that I enjoy working with. So that's why, a chance like this to be on a webinar like this is always exciting for me. The chance to, go up there in person is also extremely exciting. And just, the way Blast operates and what our philosophy is at Blast really ties into what New York Empire is all about, or at least what I've seen it's all about. And just to touch on a few other points from, earlier in this session, my pitching coach in high school was actually Chuck Carey. For those of you that watched the Yankees in the early 90s, I bet a lot of you didn't because that was a rough era for the Yankees. But he was a pitcher for them around then, and he just always made the point, like telling a pitcher to throw strikes is like telling a comedian to be funny. It's a no-brainer. Everyone gets it, and it doesn't make it any easier. And I just always like using that. I think that ties into both pitching and hitting. And that's really, some of the things we've touched on is at Blast, we recognize the individuality that has to come into hitting and a lot of the challenges that come into it as well. And what we're really focused on is just reinforcing those fundamental checkpoints that successful hitters consistently achieve. What we're not focused on is, having someone try to change their swing completely and reinvent themselves. That's not really what we're about. It's more so enabling the coaches at New York Empire to just give the players the information in terms that might be different than what they had available to them 5 to 10 years ago. So that's why I'm so excited to work with everyone here. I figured a few things I can touch on in addition to that are just, some of the metrics, the basics of it, but then just running Blast and then like what your workflow would be on a day-to-day basis. And some of you probably won't need this, but just to kind of go over the basics of it. If you haven't used Blast before, when you get your box, it's just gonna be a little box right here, and opening it up, you'll have the sensor right here. And then inside of it is just a charging pad, you can barely see it on my camera, but a charging pad, a cord, and then an attachment and sensor. The sensor will just go inside the attachment like this with the Blast logo facing outward. And then the attachment, just have my old high school bat here. So this thing's definitely illegal now. And yeah, I still hit home runs with this bat. That's how illegal it is. And you just pop it on like that. I make it look a little easier, but after you use it enough, it'll be really easy. And I think the process for charging it and running the app is fairly intuitive. I used to go on these calls and I would walk through the entire app workflow. And I mean, I'd be happy to do it. I just think none of you want to sit here and watch me navigate an app.
I mean, I think, Stephen, I'm gonna include them in. So for those of you who don't yet have a blast sensor, don't worry. Stephen and the team there made sure that we have all of our blast sensors. So I think 50 some odd sensors showed up today for our new players. We'll also have them. If somebody has a problem, obviously reach out to Joe, he'll help. The long story short, not to jump in and steal all of the thunder, is Stephen's going to show you very simply. You're going to download the app, you're going to keep the sensor charged, and you then put it back, or have your son put it back on his bat. That's the key, because we have the technology here now everywhere you go in this place to pick up your son's sensor. He walks in, we know he's here, we see the swings, we see what's going on. Joe will analyze it, share it with the coaches, and then we'll adapt their hitting plan, adjust their hitting plan from there. Right. So for those of you who don't have it yet, just so you know the background, I think the thing sells for $150 or something. I think Stephen, do we pay $75?
I honestly am not 100% sure, but I know
I
you
think
get
we pay $75 and
Yeah.
freight, we share that with you. So whatever our discount is with Blast, we pass it on because we want the kids to have it. We're not worried about making a few dollars on a Blast sensor. And then all you need to do, download the app. For those of you who are new, set up your player. Stephen will talk a little about that. Joe will help you with it. But we have all the sensors here for those of you who don't yet have it. So don't panic if you don't yet have a sensor. Stephen, jump right back in. Sorry about that.
No, yeah. So yeah, I mean, as far as working the sensor, the big thing, it ties in directly with, what we're about at Blast. And my point I always make is we're more than just improving your swing, because if Blast was only about improving your swing, it'd be something that you use 1 or 2 times and then you're done with. Once you make that adjustment, feel like you can maintain that adjustment, then you're done with it. And the process of using Blast, and for the most part, any type of sports technology in general should be more like the process of like a training plan in the gym or something like that. Like if I'm trying to lose 20 pounds, which I could use that, but if I'm trying to lose 20 pounds and then I get to that mark and I lost 20 pounds, I'm not going to be like, all right, cool, I'm going to Pizza Hut, which I know all of you are going to scoff at that sound of Pizza Hut in New York.
What's Pizza Hut?
I don't actually go to Pizza Hut. I'm just kidding. But on a serious note, like I'm not going to stop going to the gym just because I hit that 20-pound mark. And Blast is the same concept. It's not something you can just cram your work in like I did in high school when I didn't do my homework Monday through Wednesday. But it's something that you have to do incrementally and then continue to maintain throughout a year. So with that in mind, the best thing you can do for yourself in regards to the way you run Blast isn't necessarily becoming an absolute wizard in terms of knowing the metrics and anything like that. It's more so understanding it's a part of your routine. So when you get back from training, the first thing you do when you get back home is you take the sensor off and you put it on the charging pad. The first thing you do before you leave, when you run through your checklist of do I have my bat, my glove, and so forth, do I have my sensor, is one of those things. I always encounter players who keep the sensor on their bat, but they forgot to charge it. And like I forgot to charge my watch today. Why is this even on my wrist? And I always get a kick out of that. One thing we have done this year is we're also going to have a charging station in each cage in the arena. So that'll be good as well. So if that does happen or something ever happens and, you charged it, but, it died on the way or whatever, you will be able to have access to data. So that's really important to me and to all the staff at New York Empire, is just having, that long form data over the course of a year. But on top of that, your sensor, one, it's going to be a little bit easier just on you if you do have it charged and ready to go. But then the idea and goal is that you're going to be able to use this in games or practices on a field. because you want to see what you're doing on a field as well. And that just ties back into the point of how much more difficult it is to hit in the box on a field compared to in the batting cage. So all these things just matter a lot to us from a blast standpoint and to all the teams that use it as well. So I figured I could just touch on that a little bit more. Jordan, I could go through the metrics briefly if you'd want me to, or I could kind of skip
We're gonna
that.
save that for a separate call because I want to
Okay.
really dive into that, especially I know we have some people who have reached out already to say, hey, can we really dive into that? And there are some geeks around that in the organization that I know really want to dive in. I think just in the interest of time, there's one other thing I do want to share. Do not go online and order a new subscription. Number one, Blast gives us this amazing discount for all of you on the subscription. So we're going to share that as well, of course. And you don't need to order a subscription separately. So don't do it. You'll have a subscription set up for you and we'll take it from there. The key, all you need to do for now is we'll distribute the sensors. We'll send you an email with more details. When you get it, charge it. I will let you in on a little secret that I shouldn't tell you. Stephen already told you that we have charging stations set up throughout the arena. We also went and bought a whole bunch of extra sensors so that in the event that one of you one time were to forget to charge it completely accidentally, you get a free pass and we'll drop one of the sensors in and make sure that your son is being measured. I mean, punishing people because look, we get it. There's a lot going on. So in the event that, look, it takes time, it takes a few minutes out of the practice where a coach needs to go set it up and get it done. But if you could have them charged and on your son's bat, obviously make it a part of their routine and we'll remind them over and over. But if it happens where they don't, we'll take care of it and make sure that we're getting the data from their swings that day. So just help us out with that as best you can. But for now, we'll send out an email. If you need it, we'll get that set up. If you need help setting up your account or your email or whatever, Joe is here for you. He'll get that set up over the next couple of days. And this weekend, everybody will have a sensor in their bat and we'll be looking at swings all day and night. And like I said, if you do have a problem, you don't need to go to support at Blast Motion. You can, but you'll be in a queue with the rest of the world. One of the other amazing things that Stephen has arranged for us is if there is some sort of support issue with your device and your whatever, let Joe know. Joe will send it over to Stephen and Stephen will bring it straight to the support team and get answers a whole lot quicker. And look, even their general support's fantastic. We used it years ago. But having Stephen and Joe taking care of things on the back end is a huge help because we don't want any downtime for our ball players. You guys have anything to add? Any thoughts to share? Stephen, I really can't thank you enough always for everything you do for us. It really means a lot.
No, it's a pleasure. It really is. I work with a lot of customers and some of them are just about numbers and, things like that. And it's refreshing to, be in a development focused environment. So it makes my job fun. I will say for those who do have a couple extra minutes, I would like to share some stuff that can't be recorded. But like not mandatory to see, like some cool data and stuff like that.
So we'll shut off the recording. For those of you who want to stay on for some tech geekiness that has to do with some major league ball players, Stephen will be on here sharing that stuff. And we'll go from there. If you do have questions, look, it's already after 9 o'clock. Just go ahead and email us. You can email us at NewYorkEmpireBaseball.org. Of course, if you need to reach Joe, it's easy. It's Joseph at NewYorkEmpireBaseball.org. Empire hits a team of us here. So there are a few eyes on that email. So other people see it and then we can parse it out to different people in the organization. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being a part of the organization. Happy holidays. We'll be out with a whole lot more webinars, some really geeky, some really philosophical, some really fun for both the kids and parents. So with that, happy holidays. We'll see you all this week anyway. But thanks for being a part of it all. We appreciate it. With that, I will stop recording, Stephen. And if you want to stay on for some geeky stuff, Stephen's here to lead the way.